Before we plunge into the freeze, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel because the algorithm punishes silence just as harshly as the cold does, and I want to make sure this intel reaches you before the grid goes dark. Now, imagine it's 3 a.m. The power cut out 6 hours ago. The hum of the refrigerator, the whir of the furnace, the ambient buzz of the city, it's all gone. The silence isn't peaceful, it's heavy. It presses against your eardrums. You're lying in bed, and for the first time in your life, you can feel the temperature of the air dropping us in real time. You pull the duvet tighter, but the cold isn't just around you, it's seeping into the bones of your house. The drywall, the floorboards, the furniture, everything is shedding heat, trying to equalize with a 0-degree nightmare outside. Your first instinct, the one screaming in your reptile brain, is to light a fire. You want to start a roaring blaze in the fireplace or drag the old wood stove out of the garage. You want light and you want heat. But in a true collapse scenario, a column of smoke rising from your chimney is a GPS beacon for every desperate soul within 5 miles. A flickering light in the window is an invitation to people who prepared less and panicked more. You're not going to be a beacon, you're going to be a ghost. Most people suffer from what I call the bonfire fallacy. They think survival is about generating massive amounts of energy to fight the cold. They burn their furniture, their fences, and eventually they burn out. But you are going to operate differently. You are going to stop trying to heat the world and start fighting the invisible enemy, entropy. The heat you need is already there, generated by your own metabolism and the latent thermal energy stored in your home's mass. The problem isn't generation, it's retention. Your house is currently a sieve leaking life into the night through conduction, convection, and radiation. Today, we are going to plug those holes. We are going to turn your home into a thermos using nothing but common household items, basic physics, and a refusal to freeze to death. We aren't just surviving the cold, we are mastering it. The first step in your transformation from victim to insulation architect is the ruthless contraction of your world, a method I call microclimate sectorization. Stop thinking of your house as a home with bedrooms, a kitchen, and a living room. That is wasted space. That is volume you cannot afford to heat. You need to identify your siege room. This should be the smallest room in the house, preferably interior with no exterior walls, or at least facing south to catch passive solar gain during the day. A walk-in closet or a small powder room is ideal. Once you pick this ground zero, you need to seal it off physically from the rest of the dying structure. Grab your heaviest blankets, mattresses, or even an old door taken off its hinges from another room. You are going to barricade the entrance to this room, not just to stop intruders, but to stop airflow. Tape the edges. If you're using blankets, weigh the bottom down with heavy books or canned goods so it creates a seal against the floor. The magic here is thermodynamic. By reducing the volume of air you need to heat by 90%, your body heat alone becomes a significant heating element. An expert knows that trying to heat 2,000 square feet without power is a death sentence. Heating 100 square feet is a tactical victory. Once you have established your perimeter, you must address the traitor in the walls, your window. In a survival situation, a glass window is essentially a massive hole in your defense where heat bleeds out through radiation and conduction. You look at a window and see a view. I see a thermal wound. To fix this, you need bubble wrap. If you don't have bubble wrap, use clear plastic shower curtains or even garbage bags, but bubble wrap is the king of poor man's double glazing. Spray a light mist of water on the glass, just water, and press the bubble side of the wrap against the pane. It will stick instantly. Then, duct tape the edges to the frame to create an airtight seal. The physics here is simple but profound. The air trapped inside the bubbles and the gap between the plastic and the glass creates a dead airspace, an insulating buffer that stops the warm air in your room from touching the freezing glass. It slows conductive heat loss dramatically. But here is the pro tip that most people miss. Simply covering the window isn't enough. you need to cover the frame. Cold bridges through the aluminum or vinyl sash. Layer heavy wool blankets over the entire window recess, but ensure there is an air gap between the bubble wrap and the blanket. That trapped air is your insulation. You have just turned a thermal hemorrhage into a wall. Now that the obvious holes are plugged, we have to hunt the invisible ones using the ghost seal method. Air leakage or convection is the silent thief that steals your warmth. Cold air forces its way in through the bottom of the house, pushing the warm air up and out through the attic. The stack effect. To fight this, you need a stick of incense, a cigarette, or a single match. Light it and slowly walk the perimeter of your siege room. Hold the smoke near the baseboards, the electrical outlets, and the windowsills. Watch the smoke. If it swirls or drifts horizontally, you have found a leak. You are bleeding heat. Your weapon of choice here is duct tape, painter's tape, or even wet towels. Tape over the electrical outlets. Yes, cold air comes through the sockets. Roll up towels and jam them against the base of the door. Use silicone caulk if you have it, or wet toilet paper frozen into a paste if you don't. You are hermetically sealing your microclimate. The psychological shift here is vital. You are no longer passive. You are hunting drafts. Every draft you kill is a degree of warmth you keep. A room that feels drafty is actually a wind tunnel on a microscopic scale. Stop the wind, and you stop the freeze. With the walls and air secured, look down. The floor is your enemy in a power outage, especially if you're not on the ground floor or if you're above an unheated basement. The floor becomes a massive heat sink, sucking the energy right out of your feet through conduction. You need to build a conduction break. This requires cardboard, lots of it. Flatten every shipping box you have and layer them on the floor of your siege room. Cardboard is corrugated. Those little flutes of air inside are excellent insulators. On top of the cardboard, layer your rugs, yoga mats, and eventually your mattress. Never ever sleep directly on the floor. The expert edge here is to understand that the cold ground is infinite. It will absorb every joule of heat you possess and ask for more. By elevating your sleeping area even 6 inches off the ground and placing layers of insulative material beneath you, you break that conductive chain. Think of the floor as lava, but in reverse. If you touch it, you lose. Now, we move to the centerpiece of your thermal defense, a psychological and physical structure I call the nest. Even inside your sealed siege room, the ceiling is likely 8 feet high. Heat rises. You don't care about the temperature at the ceiling. You care about the temperature against your skin. You are going to build a room within a room. Take 4 dining chairs, face them outward, and drape your largest sheets and blankets over them to create a fort. It sounds childish, but it is survival genius. By reducing the air volume to just the space around your body, you create a pocket where your 98.6-degree body heat can raise the ambient temperature by 15 to 20 degrees. This is how the Inuit survive in igloos. It's how you will survive in your living room. Inside the nest, bring your sleeping bags. If you have a partner or a pet, get in there together. Shared body heat is the most efficient furnace on Earth. The pro tip: make sure your roof of blankets is breathable enough to let moisture out, or you will wake up wet, and wet in the cold means hypothermia. Since we are operating under strict light discipline, we cannot have a bonfire, but we can hack physics to create a localized radiant heater using the candle radiator method. You need a simple tea light or a candle, a terracotta flower pot, and a way to prop the pot up. Bricks or flat stones work well. Light the candle and place the terracotta pot upside down over it, propped up so air can flow underneath to feed the flame. If you have a smaller pot, nest it inside the larger one with a bolt or a stone separating them. Here is the magic. A candle normally releases heat through convection. Hot air goes straight up to the ceiling and is lost. The terracotta captures that heat, absorbs it into its thermal mass, and then radiates it outward horizontally. It turns a wasted updraft into a warm, glowing radiator that can keep your hands functional. It creates almost no light signature outside the room and produces negligible smoke. However, the expert warning is critical. Fire consumes oxygen. In your sealed siege room, you must crack a seal for ventilation periodically. Do not burn this while you sleep. This is a tool for morale and dexterity while you are awake and planning your next move. Finally, we must address the fuel for the furnace, which is you. You can insulate all you want, but if your internal metabolic fire goes out, the house will win. This is the metabolic Stokes method. In a cold weather survival scenario, your diet must change. Carbohydrates burn fast and hot like kindling, but they burn out quickly. You need coal, you need fat. Before you go to sleep in your nest, eat a spoonful of peanut butter, a chunk of cheese, or even a shot of olive oil. Fat is slow burning fuel. Digestion creates heat, thermogenesis. By eating high fat foods before bed, you are literally stoking your internal boiler to run all night long. Additionally, hydration is non negotiable. Dehydration thickens your blood, making it harder for your heart to pump warm blood to your extremities. Drink water, even if you aren't thirsty. But the expert edge is timing. Stop drinking 2 hours before bed. You do not want to leave the warmth of your nest to urinate in the freezing darkness. That excursion alone can cost you precious degrees of core temperature. The sun rises on the third day. The silence outside is still deafening, perhaps broken by the distant sound of sirens that aren't coming for you. You unzip the heavy blanket door of your siege room and step out into the main house. The air in the hallway hits you like a physical blow. It's freezing, barely above the temperature outside. Your breath mists instantly, but you are warm. You are rested. You haven't burned your furniture. You haven't signaled your presence to the looters watching the neighborhood. You scan the perimeter, checking the bubble wrap on the windows, the towels at the door, the silent, cold shell of your former life. You realize that while the house failed, you did not. This is the ultimate realization of the survivor. We are conditioned to believe that safety is a product we buy, a furnace, a security system, a well-stocked pantry. But when the system breaks, those things are just artifacts. Safety is a process. It is a mindset. By understanding the laws of thermodynamics, by respecting the lethal power of entropy, and by shrinking your world down to a manageable, defensible core, you turned a freezing tomb into a womb of survival. You didn't fight the cold with brute force. You outsmarted it. You became the master of your environment because you stopped relying on the switch on the wall and started relying on the 3 pounds of gray matter between your ears. Stay hidden, stay warm, and stay ready. Now, I want to know, if the power goes out tonight, what is the one item in your house you're using to seal that first draft? Drop it in the comments below. Hit like if you learned something that might save your life, and I'll see you in the next one.